Federal Premium. They do a lot for us. So we really appreciate Federal, just hooking us up with ammo and taking care of us. Just can't appreciate them enough. They've really come through for us. Also, the Sonoran Desert Institute, SDI. Check them out, sdi.edu. Again, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you can see the website.
I've got a flashing blue light now, so.
Yeah, okay, cool. I had this see this monitor right here? I had that. So I've got this, I didn't show you that part, but I've got this thing integrated with a laptop too. So like he can look up stuff on the computer and it shows like on the actual show itself. But I bought this HDMI splitter so I could run what's on the laptop out to this monitor so we could also see, like if he wants to like show a YouTube video. But there's something wrong with the splitter or something. I don't know. It won't work. And we got this all set up nice, and it doesn't work.
Doesn't work. It looks beautiful. I mean,
thanks.
It's a pretty paperweight.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you just the splitter. You think the splitter's just bad?
See, that's what that's what's frustrating about cables. It's like there's so many different levels. Like, is it just a bad cable just in general?
Yeah.
Or is it just that particular one doesn't work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I had that with a guitar cable recently, and it's funny. I had just bought that new guitar. I plug it in, just sounds like trash, and I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me!" Because I thought maybe it was a guitar. I tried a different cable. All right, it's fine. But then I went to buy it. I was like, "Well, do I go buy another cable just like it because I liked it? If it works,
if it worked, it'd been great. I don't know. Yeah. Oddly enough, I had that with a light bulb recently. I mean, I have a turtle, and I have to keep a heat lamp on top of him, especially in the winter. And the heat lamp blew, and I went and bought another heat lamp, and it didn't work. And I was like, how did the dome go out? Like, that doesn't happen. It's a freaking light fixture on a cord. Like, so I went and bought a new dome and brought it back and screwed the new light bulb into it, and it didn't work. And I was like, so the light bulb was literally blown in the box.
Yeah.
So luckily they took the dome back, and I bought a new. I just swapped the dome for the light bulb because it was about the same price.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like we were right before the show, we were talking about the like intricacies of language and what it means, and like the show starts, we're like, "Hey, you ever buy something that don't work?"
Yeah, I know, right? Man, are we good now? Are we up? Okay.
Yeah,
well, we went into a damaged monitor, so
yeah, we did.
But yeah, so all of a sudden, all the brain just melted out of our ear.
Yeah.
Oh, we're recording.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, don't have to rehash that whole thing. But what was it you were saying about, like we were talking about earlier about that movie?
Oh, Arrival.
Yeah, don't spoil it because I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen it.
But just the whole idea of the language and
well, I mean, again, it's the if you want to Google this, it's the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which is that not only does language allow us to communicate our ideas to one another, but the way the language itself shapes how we think, and so it's not just the communication of the language of the words. The words function within our mind into a point, like I was saying earlier. Russian has no word for to be. Yeah. And so they simply can't be somewhere. They have to be doing something. And so if you look at, by and large at their culture, it's a very active culture. It's a very work-centered culture. You're always doing something somewhere. You're cooking in the kitchen. You're not just in the kitchen, or you're sitting on the couch. You're not just, on the couch. You have to be doing something.
And it totally makes sense that that's how it would be, because you're walking around by yourself and during the day, you're thinking with your words. You're talking in your head. And it's like the even concept, the whole concept of thinking without using some sort of language is just like hard for me to even imagine.
Well, I mean that interesting that you should bring that up. That's sort of the nature of meditation. Zen meditation is to reach that point where you're beyond that. Your mind is quiet and you simply exist as a pure being. Yeah. So you're thinking without thought. You have thought without language, and so it's very, very strange to think about, to quiet the noise. Yeah. Where you're no longer just processing things.
You're kind of like when you're are meditating or making your mind quiet. It's more like you're observing more so than. Like, you think of thinking, it's almost like you're like language is how you like climb through stuff to discover things or whatever. But if you're like being still and not thinking, you just kind of have to take in whatever you get in a way.
To a certain extent, but I think what's kind of terrifying about that, and I guess terrifying is a good word, is if you buy into Sapir-Whorf, if you think okay, so my language actually shapes the way I think. and it shapes. Then at that point, it shapes the ideas you have access to.
Yeah.
You know, and for someone who spends a decent amount of his time thinking, which
Yeah.
I tend to do, you think after a while, like, what concepts do I not even have access to? What
Right.
concepts can I not even begin to form in my mind, because the language that I use, not just the words, but the structure of the language, the way I've been taught to use the language, the way this language has taught me to see the world, puts me in a situation where, you know, my language literally confines the concepts of my understanding of the universe.
Yeah.
You know, and
Literally.
yeah.
That's why, like, you talk about, like, if we ever met, like, a alien race or something, it's sort of like we were talking about with that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how could we even understand what their perspective would be on the world, because the way that they came up to their language would be so different.
Would be completely different than the way we came. It could be a situation of where not only is it a language issue, it is like a literal viewpoint of the universe issue.
Yeah.
And that's scary in and of itself, because then, you know, what's that going to lead to?
Right.
You
And
know,
yeah, and even in like a even way more simplistic terms, like you think about people that stay in their bubble. You know, I talk about that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's so easy to stay in a specific bubble. If you're a conservative guy and you're only around other conservatives,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that in a way is kind of the same kind of thing, or the other way around. If you're a liberal and you're always around other liberals or whatever, that's why I think it's important for people to try to be around people who talk in different ways and have like different perspectives, because it does kind of like open up new doors for you.
It does.
You
I
know?
mean, if you're staying around, you know, it gets into the whole groupthink thing. You know,
Yeah.
if you're staying within your own bubble, your own group of people, all you're getting is that. And if you pile on top of that this concept that language, the way language is used, literally shapes the way our minds function, then when you're sitting yourself in an echo chamber, you're doing yourself a massive disservice.
Right.
You're not just not hearing new ideas. Your brain isn't forming new pathways. It isn't doing the things that it needs to do to be an active, healthy brain, on top of the fact that your ideas and your concepts aren't changing at all. And maybe, I mean, you could be completely set in your ways and think your concepts and ideas don't need to change. I hope, for one, I never reach that point.
Yeah.
But, you know, you sit in that echo chamber and hear the same words and the same grammar and the same things echoed back at you constantly. You're never going to expand your consciousness. And I think that's what we run into a lot, on both sides, like you were saying. Like,
Yeah.
you sit there and well, I believe this, and the guy next to you goes, well, that sounds right, I believe that too, you know.
At least expose yourself.
At least expose yourself
Yeah.
to something and try and pull something out of there. Come up with a new concept, analyze it, flip it around in your hands a couple times, look at it from a few different angles. If you still don't think it's viable, throw it away, but at least for the love of the, you know, look at it.
Yeah, and also it makes you feel better about your own beliefs and things.
Yeah.
You know, like with guns, I actually have a great time looking at seeing what people who don't like guns say. I watch anti-gun videos all the time. Part of it is because I'm like, you know, I'm like, all right, how am I going to beat them? You know, what are they saying? You know, how can I poke holes in their logic? But still, I feel like it also kind of reinforces some of my ideas, because there's been certain like pro-gun things where, you know, I see like something on the other side. So, oh yeah, that is kind of a silly argument, really.
Yeah, well,
you
I
know,
mean,
in some ways,
but that's because the people that formed it sat in their bubble.
yeah.
You know, but I think it's not going outside yourself, not watching the things that you disagree with, you know, not listening to people you disagree with, not engaging them on a civil level, you know, not yelling at them over a Facebook argument, but not engaging them on a civil level. I think you do yourself a disservice in that, you know, you walk around all day thinking, oh, my arguments are airtight, no one can defeat me.
Yeah.
And then somebody shows up and goes, well, what about this? And you're like, well, you just don't know anything, you know, and you walk off and and then that's going to burrow into your brain and you're going to worry about it. You know, it's like saying you're the greatest, you know, martial artist out there, but you've never faced another martial artist.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to get out there and spar if you're going to make any statement about, you know, how well you understand the world.
Well, if you're the greatest, you don't need to.
Well, yeah, touche. What was funny though is when I took of all the topics, shockingly enough, I took in college, I took a critical thinking course.
Yeah.
Which personally I think should be a mandatory course. To be honest with you, I think critical thinking should be a mandatory course in college. I mean, if you're going to make me take art history, then this guy over here should learn how to think for himself. That's just me. But I told my critical thinking professor, I said, I feel like right now I'm a street fighter, and I'm looking to you to turn me into a martial artist.
Yeah.
And he just smiled. He was like, dude, that is the best thing anyone's ever told me in this class. He was like, that is amazing, But yeah, I loved it. It was a great class, and I think it should be mandatory because we've got so many people out here that get an education that literally have no idea how to think.
Yeah.
Their arguments are horribly structured. They're full of fallacies. And you just look at them. Did you even look at that argument before you presented it? Did you even run that through your brain a couple times before you shot it out of your mouth?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Or at least like do what I do and just try to admit as many times as possible. Like, I don't really know this. I'm just saying these things.
Yeah, at least something. But I mean, it's just you look at people who have an opinion, and that's all they have.
Yeah, that's what gets me is when people get so angry. Like I'm sure all the time I try to like oh, it should be this way, and I haven't like really thought it through that much. But usually at the end of the day, I at least make some attempt to be like, but I don't really know, and I don't like. I know in the back of my mind that I don't really know, so I don't usually get too angry, with people just because they disagree with me. Because I mean, they might be right from their perspective. I don't know.
Well, I think that the anger now comes, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day. And I think the problem is in our society is that you can't just have an opinion anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody has an opinion anymore. Everybody is, everybody's opinion should be law. And unfortunately, you walk up to somebody and they have a differing opinion than you, and you think, well, this dude votes, and that's terrifying. And if enough people that think like him vote, then I'm going to end up having to live under his opinion. And I think that's what scares people, and I think that's where a lot of the anger comes in. We forget that high fences make good neighbors, and now everybody who has an opinion goes out and votes, and everybody thinks their opinion should be law. And then the side that wins the popularity contest gets their opinion made law, and the people that don't want to live under it are terrified of the people that now can have their opinion made law. And I think that's where a lot of the political animosity in this country comes from. There's just way too much involvement there's way too much involvement of government in our lives, to a point that we have to worry about what everybody around us thinks. And we have to analyze it as to how is this a threat to me and mine, because their opinion next month could have the force of law, and the force of law has a police officer behind it, and that police officer has a gun. So now I've got to do what they think is right, whether I think it's right or not.
Yeah.
And I think if we could scale that back a little bit, we might actually get some more civility in this country. But that's just, my 2 cents for what it's worth.
And there's no easy answer, is the thing. This is an area that I kind of differ on. Like it would be nice. Like, for example, when it comes to gun laws, it would be nice if every state respected my right to be able to own an AR-15 or carry a handgun for my protection. But who am I to say if there's a big group of people that live in LA or Chicago or something like that, and they don't like that bothers them, and most of them feel that way. So like, who am I to say that they shouldn't feel that way and they shouldn't get to live in a place where they don't let people do that? So there's part of me that's kind of like, how about we let the states or the cities or whatever decide that kind of thing, and I'll just stay in the places that respect my rights. There's part of me that feels like that. But then there's also a part of me that's just like, well, they don't get to say what I can and can't do. Regardless, I should be able to go anywhere and have whatever guns I want. So it's like, to me, it's like you got the live and let live thing, but people have a different idea of what that is in the first place.
Well, I think you can actually roll that back over to the non-aggression principle. Like if you're the first person to initiate violence, either personally or by proxy, then you lose.
Yeah.
So if I am by definition a peaceful gun owner, which by definition I am, what right do you have? Does anyone have? I don't care if there's 50,000 of them that think this way.
Right.
What right do they have to come in and take my take my right to own a thing, whatever that thing is?
Yeah.
What is it? And I'm gonna throw out some Ayn Rand right here, because it's one of the things that I've been looking at. So here's an example. So I come up to you and I say, John, give me $500. You're like, I'm not giving you $500. Why am I going to give you $500? Give me $500. No. Do I have a right to take your $500 at that point?
No.
Okay. So you and I, get together and we form a government, and we take a vote that we want $500, and we walk up to some guy on the street and we go, we took a vote and we want $500. Give us $500. Do we have a right to take that guy's $500?
No.
Okay, so how does a group of people, no matter how big they are, lay claim to rights that no individual in that group can have?
Weapons.
Exactly. But on a natural rights level, if you look at it, where does that come from? How can they say who handed them those rights? Who handed them that power? Just because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
You pull one of them out at any given moment, none of them have the right to do what they do, but you stick them in a government, and now all of a sudden, through majority rule, they can do all of these things.
Yeah.
So how does a group come by a power that no individual in that group could have on their own?
Yeah, it really just comes down to weapons, I feel like, at the end of the day.
Yeah, it does. Well, then you're back to the non-aggression principle, and they have to initiate violence to get their ideas across, to take the money, to do whatever they want to with it. And so technically, at that point, they lose. So, but it's one of those things that once you break it down and realize that, no one single person in that group could walk up to anybody and say, give me your money because I want to give it to this other guy over here, or give me your money because I want to go shoot this guy over here, then where the heck do they get it? Just because there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And I really don't get an answer to that from most people I ask, no matter whether they're on the left or the right, because I don't think there's a good answer for it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question, though.
Yeah, because where does that right come from? Where does their power emanate from? It doesn't. It can't. The consent of the governed, I guess. But if you come into my house and take stuff that I don't want to give you, you no longer have my consent, and I'm the governed. So you lose that there as well.
Yeah.
So it just, go back to what you were saying earlier. No, I don't think even in Chicago. If that group of people wishes to live where there are no guns, then don't buy a damn gun. If you don't like weapons, don't buy weapons. And, that's really it at the end of the day. And if you're concerned that somebody with a weapon is going to harm you, well, then maybe you should buy a weapon.
Yeah.
The world is not.
Well, guns exist whether we like them or not.
Yeah.
I like them, but
I love guns.
but some people don't like them.
Yeah, but the genie's out of the bottle, bro.
Yeah,
like you're not putting that back in there. It's like nuclear weapons. Like there's never not going to be a nuclear weapon on this planet. There's never not going to be a gun on this planet.
Yeah,
it can't happen. We're not going to go back.
Right.
I'd love to go back to swords. It's not going to happen anytime soon.
No, I would actually not like to go back to swords.
Well, I'm good with a sword, so
okay,
I'm good.
Well, that's an advantage then.
Exactly.
See, like guns are easier to learn how to use. So,
to a certain extent, I think.
And also, the nice thing about at least like modern rifles, we can change a 30-round magazine really quickly. You at least feel like. Yeah. It takes a pretty big gang of people to get you.
It does. It does.
That's kind of nice.
No, it's kind of nice to be able to hold off, a half a platoon from your bedroom window. No, I'm granted. No, and you're not doing that with a sword. No, I got you. Yeah,
and you might not with the rifle either, but at least you have a chance.
You have a chance. At least you have the illusion that you could pull it off if you wanted to. The sword, you're just like. What's funny though is I have a sword and a 45 next to my bed, so I feel sorry for anybody that breaks in. Like, if you get past this, you got this to deal with.
Yeah,
so,
that's like some patent stuff right there.
It really kind of is. This is Steven Seagal. Whose house did we break into?
I feel like swinging a sword around in a house would be tough, though.
It just depends on how. I mean, I have a big room downstairs.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, there are different. I mean, not to get too deeply into it or anything of that nature, because it always feels like I don't know. As for someone who likes bragging about himself so much, there are certain things that I do that I'm just like, I'm not going to brag about this. But there are just different techniques for different areas. I mean, for the different situations that you're in.
You have a plan, is what you're saying.
Exactly. I've had a wee bit of teaching on the subject.
I would imagine you couldn't, if you're going to use a sword inside, you probably couldn't, keep a lot of memorabilia and stuff on your shelves. That's just a recipe for disaster.
It depends on your blade control. I mean, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you.
If I had a fencing sword,
exactly. Your precious moments would not survive.
At the very least, they might be cut in half.
It's a lot of precious moments. Precious mini moments, I think, is what milliseconds at that point. They wouldn't be moments anymore.
Unless all your memorabilia is other swords, then
then you're fine. Then there's just a lot of clanking, and I got to rehang that later. That's happened more than once or twice.
If all your memorabilia is sharpening stones,
then you might be okay.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of swords, here's a bow. I got a bowie knife sword here. Check out.
Did you have this last time?
No. I got that since I think last time I saw you. Got that out in Monument Valley. It's handmade by a Native American guy that lives in Wisconsin, and he makes these knives, for them to sell down in the Monument Valley Park.
That is gorgeous.
Thanks, I like it. It's got some heft to it.
It does. No, it's got some good weight, and the balance on it's actually not bad. I mean, it kind of is balanced almost like a short sword. I think if it had, obviously you wouldn't, but I think if it had a better pommel, the balance on it would be perfect. I mean, it's nice. It's not hard on the wrist. You could wield that for a hot minute.
I love Bowie knives. Bowie knives. I've always called them Bowie knives.
I don't know. Yeah,
that's how you're supposed to say it. Whatever.
Is it a Bowie knife?
Technically, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I've always liked them as a kid and stuff. But it's really hard to find good ones, right? Because they're always like they look big, but then you pick them up and it's like, oh, this is like thin,
It's some sort of steel from somewhere where yeah.
And like I've got since we're pulling out knives,
since we're in the middle of this bad boy. Oh. It's off screen.
That is actually a lot closer to what they would actually carry back in the day, of course. And I can pretty quickly tell if it's a pretty well made one. Like again, the thickness of the blade. Mm-hmm. Cheap ones never have a thick blade. It's got a little weight to it. And
that's definitely good metal.
Yeah, it's a nice handmade knives. I usually don't buy them unless I can find one that's pretty decent.
Yeah, no, that's a nice.
And I don't usually use those. They're just kind of like a cool thing to collect.
I mean, if it comes down to it, though, you got them.
Technically good. Yeah.
There's cheesecake, or you need to stab somebody. You're set. Yeah,
exactly. Do you do like cold steel stuff at all?
I do. To a certain, I do. A lot of my knife collection was. Oh, great. Now I can't even think of the guy's name, so I'm not even going to try, or else I'm just going to sit here and do this for the rest of the night. But he, Hibben. Gil Hibben.
I think I've heard of that name.
Yeah, Gil Hibben. He did a lot of really intricate. I've got one called the Griffin that you could not. I mean, if you ever whipped it out on somebody, it's over. But it ain't something you carry around on you anywhere you go. It's got like huge blades that fan out. It looks like a griffin, a griffin's head. And I've got several of his pieces. And then I've got some other stuff. But my sword and the swords that I run are usually historical replicas. Like my favorite sword is it's a Scottish mercenary sword that they found. It's a replica of a Scottish mercenary sword that they found in Ireland. And that's probably my favorite. So that's the one that's next to my bed.
Okay. Is that like those big ones like that they use in Braveheart?
No, that's a claymore. You're thinking about a claymore, and I don't. I have a claymore somewhere, but it's literally just, to go, I got a claymore, it's William Wallace Mackenzie and I got a claymore, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah. That you're like, I have one somewhere. I'm like that. I'm like that with guns. Like, I think I have one of those.
I've got, there's an M1 around here somewhere. But then that's the way it's just there for whatever. But the sword that I train with, the sword that I get out there and mess around with, the sword that I kind of try and teach my stepdaughter how to use is a gallo glass sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've never been like really like into collecting swords, but I always thought they're kind of neat.
Well, I mean, they are. I mean, there's there's the romance of it. You've got to face your enemy.
They were the guns for so long.
Yeah, they really were. I mean,
way longer than guns were.
Way longer than guns been guns. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the guns, even from the hand cannon up.
Like 500 years.
Yeah, let's say 500 or 600 years. It hasn't been a very, very long time. No. The late 1400s, I think, was at the absolute, soonest. Yeah. Was when we saw the first black powder, And they
only got good like in the last, 80 years or so.
Yeah, they got really good when somebody decided to spin the barrel. I don't know why that took 300 years to figure out, but let's try this, Bob, and then all of a sudden they're a thing. But the sword was around, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years before that. And then if you go back into Stone Age, man, where you're dealing, with knives and obsidian, you go back even further as far as the blade's concerned. So there's something about
those are pretty wicked. Some of those.
Oh God, dude,
sharper in some ways than steel.
No, not in some ways. To be honest with you,
they're
actually sharper. One of the stories. So again, we'll go back to my higher learning days. Okay. One of the stories that my one of my anthropology teachers, because I have while physics is my main discipline, anthropology fascinates the heck out of me. Yeah. Could be why I'm engaged with an anthropologist. But what happened was so glass doesn't crystallize.
Okay.
So it never. when you can literally sharpen glass. When glass breaks, you can literally get it down to one glass molecule thick because it never crystallizes. There's no crystal. It never solidifies. If you look at old houses and you see the windows and the glass is all wavy and it's thicker at the bottom than it is at the top, that's because that glass is still moving. It's not a crystalline form. It's solid in the form that you would call it a solid, but it's not crystallized. It's not stable.
Okay.
And that's why when you cut yourself, you can cut yourself really, really badly on a piece of glass because that's that level of sharpness.
Yeah. Okay.
And so there was an anthropologist who was going in for open heart surgery, and he was friends with some people at the medical center and the doctor that was doing the surgery and the whole 9 yards. So he literally talked them into making 2 incisions in his chest for the open heart surgery. The top incision was made with and you've seen open heart surgery scars.
Yeah.
Like that wide, they're nasty. They're just a gash down the center of your chest.
Yeah, a friend of my dad.
Yeah. Well, they did the top half with the Obsidian blade and the bottom half with a normal scalpel. The Obsidian blade scar you can't hardly see it in pictures.
Wow.
It's that thin and that fine because the blade is that sharp. No, Obsidian is incredibly, incredibly sharp. Yeah, it's sharper than you can definitely get it to a better edge than steel.
Wow.
Yeah.
That answers that question then for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, no, Obsidian is sharper than steel.
Because I know I've seen like Native American, and I'm sure that like whatever the guys that are into that stuff that just not whatever it's called.
Napping.
Napping, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't make it like that incredibly razor sharp, but I've always thought just because it kind of creates like a serrated blade.
It does, yeah. I mean,
effect,
flint will do that. Chert and flint, it's not as sharp as Obsidian, but you can get chert and flint down to a pretty good edge as well. But Obsidian, you don't have to do that much with.
Yeah.
The edge on Obsidian comes from learning how to nap it properly, how to strike it so that it breaks the way you want it to break, and when it breaks, it will break down to that edge.
Wow.
I mean, it's just like breaking a glass bottle. Like how much do you have to sharpen a glass bottle once it's broken?
Yeah.
And it's that same thing with Obsidian. If you nap it, if you know how to nap it so that you can get that blade out of it, that break is that sharp. You don't polish it, you don't sharpen it. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Wow.
Obsidian's it's nasty. I mean, you can hurt somebody with a piece of obsidian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Weapons going back the days. It's just interesting because it's like the weapons kind of define the tactics.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of what's interesting about how, and it always seems like I think Derek and I were talking about this the other day, how it always seems like, at least with like the American military or probably most militaries, that the weapons always come first and the tactics. There's always like one war where they haven't figured out what they should be doing yet.
Yeah, well, that's a given because you get all the great technology and they're like, oh, put that out in the field, and then nobody knows what to do with it. Yeah, and then you're just like, oh well, and then by the next war you've kind of got it figured out.
Like the Civil War. One of the reasons it was so bloody is because like they finally figured out like rifling. They had accurate.
Well, one side
rifles.
did anyway.
Yeah, well,
just being honest, dude. Like the guys down here, we didn't, our ancestors. I don't know. You're from the South. Like are you from the South? From the South?
Per se. I mean, not going back hundreds of years or anything.
I mean, I've got some pretty deep roots here, and I'll be honest with you, my ancestors didn't figure out the rifling until long after the war was over, dude. A lot of smooth bore on the on the Confederate side.
My ancestry comes from like I was Scotch Irish, and I'm like of the ones that went up into the hills in Kentucky and stuff like that, and they had like flintlocks that were had rifling in them.
Well, then maybe what I've heard was but I've always heard that one of the big disadvantages the South had, and it could be one of those some of that old wives' tale stuff. Yeah, a lot of it was money, but a lot of the rifles that were used down south were family rifles, and a lot of them didn't have rifling, and that's what I was told, and I could be 100% wrong on that. But I've read it in a couple of different places. But then again, a lot of times,
it's definitely because we just did a video recently on a infield rifle, which a lot of the Southern, and I'm not a Civil War history buff by any means, but we actually talked about that very thing. Most of the Southern guys had the infields, which were made in England, and for a while they were able to buy them directly, I think, but then like England didn't want to support the South, so they had to like buy them like third party because England was still selling them all over the place, and they were buying them third party. So those rifles that they had were good, and those were rifled and everything. And some people say they're even better than the Springfield Armory rifles that the North were using.
North had, yeah.
And the North had some Enfields, but mostly like the U.S. made Springfields. But the ones who didn't have those rifles, they had just all kinds of random stuff.
Yeah.
Some of them were probably shooting Kentucky long rifles. That take forever to load. Literally had to actually force the ball down.
Yeah.
Didn't have the mini balls and stuff, and smooth bores, maybe even old like Brown Bess, Revolutionary rifles, and so they didn't have shoes. Some of them. So I'm sure.
We won the last war with these. The last war was over 100 years ago, bro. We'll survive. We'll triumph. Yeah. I mean, that's possible. Again, it depends. I think a lot of times, and I would trust whoever you were talking to, because I think you do your research on who you talk to. But I mean, a lot of times you read something in this book and you think, oh, well, that's the way it was, and then you go read something in another book and you're like, oh, well, maybe that's not the way it was, or you spout off what you read. And maybe they were talking about a certain subsect, and they didn't. Yeah. I didn't understand it, or it wasn't very clear. As this particular regiment didn't have rifle.
I think a lot of times when it comes to that kind of history, it's just like you find something like that. It's not that it's not true. It's just like people disagree a lot of times on like how prevalent of a thing it was.
Yeah. I mean, how many was the majority have rifled Enfields? The majority have smoothbore, long rifles. What did they have? You know what I mean? And so it could literally be one historian's opinion versus another historian's opinion.
Yeah. So much of that stuff just doesn't get saved through the years or misconstrued, or like, oh my god, especially with like Wild West figures. Oh
my lord, yeah.
Billy the Kid and like Wyatt Earp. Depending on who you talk to, people will say that Wyatt Earp was this local hero, and other people will say he was basically like a gangster.
Yeah,
he was the bad guy.
He was the bad guy. Yeah, I've heard that before too.
And then Billy the Kid, same thing. Like, oh, he was a terrible person. Other people were like, he was actually the victim.
Yeah. I mean, what was There was a movie, and I can't remember the name of it. But at the end of the movie, they're talking about they're going to print. It's an old black and white Western, and I want to say it's The Legend of Bagger Vance, but I don't think that's what it is, because that's the name that stuck in my head. But I think that was a more recent movie.
That's like a golfing movie.
Yeah, that was a golfing movie, but it's a Legend of something. I think it's got Jimmy Stewart in it.
Okay.
And at the end of the movie, he says, "Well, we can't print that. It's not true." And he said that's just part of the legend. And he said, well, when the legend becomes truth, you print the legend.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's what happens a lot of times. People end up printing the legend, and we come down, and one of us sitting here thinks, well, they didn't have any rifle. Then you're like, well, actually, I did a thing with the guy the other day, and we were talking about how most of their weapons were rifled. And so at the end of the day, you're just kind of relying on whichever historian's book you happen to read.
Yeah.
And so some of it's, I think some of it out there, the vast majority of people agree on, and then some of it you're just like, well, that's possibly true too,
Yeah.
And so
it's like, who knows?
Exactly.
Well, have you ever heard anything about? There's like kind of a theory that Billy the Kid was never actually shot.
Oh yeah.
And that the guy actually came back when he was older. And I've heard some people very convincingly be like, oh yeah, I think for sure that happened, and other people are like, nah.
That was the basis for Young Guns Part 2.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Young Guns Part 2. Yeah, because the guy at the end is Billy the Kid.
Yeah,
the old guy.
It's supposedly there was someone that like interviewed him or something, and then like he knew things that like he.
Yeah, no, I've heard that before. That there was an interview done with a gentleman claiming to be Billy the Kid.
I'm a little convinced. I'll be honest. I don't know.
I mean, it would be nice to think that a figure like that lived through it. That he didn't get shot in the back in the dark. It's just, and so I'd like to think it's real. I'd like to think it's true. And
the guy that claimed to be Billy the Kid was Brushy Bill Roberts.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And he was in New Mexico, an old man about 85, 90. Once again, I'm not Googling this.
Not at all. This isn't coming off straight off.
He just wanted a full pardon from New Mexico and the federal government, and he showed all his scars that lined up with the stories and all that stuff. But that's best of my knowledge that him and Pat Garrett were kind of friends, then they weren't, then Pat Garrett took the credit for shooting him even though he didn't.
Yeah, and I've also heard that because they were friends at one point.
Yeah, Pat Garrett just said he did it so that he could disappear.
Yeah.
Because there was never a body. They never,
Right.
they never buried Billy the Kid. He was like, oh yeah, I shot him in the back out in the desert,
Yeah.
and that was the end of it, and no one ever found him. And I think that's you're never going to get without a body, man. You're never going to be able to prove that anything happened to that guy.
And the thing that hurts stuff like that, the legitimacy of it, is because every time there's someone that's some big figure or whatever dies, or there's always some kind of story about that they did, like with Hitler or Elvis,
Yeah.
Tupac, everybody.
They're all still alive. They're all in some resort down in Brazil. Yeah.
Yeah, every single one of them. Yeah.
Elvis, Tupac, and Hitler are chilling out. Okay, that's cool, man. Whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be a weird bunch.
That would be. I mean, I don't even want to go there, dude. Like, if you think political discussions are bad in America, can you imagine hanging out in that place? There's just
really.
too many weird people that have gone there.
Yeah,
so,
not at all.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and part of it is just and that's the thing with conspiracy theories. It's fun.
Oh, dude, I love conspiracy theories.
Like believe, something like this, and then also people get a thrill out of saying like no, like shutting them down, and stuff.
Well,
so.
some of them, you're just like, dude.
Oh, I know.
Like I've actually unfollowed like three different whatever groups or whatever on social media recently because they just posted something and I went, how is this still a thing? Like, how is this still? How do we not believe? Really?
Yeah.
And
the alien moon base or something.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. No, it was worse than that. It was that we never landed on the moon.
Oh yeah. Well, that one I've looked into, but there's nothing that really jumps out at me.
I'll be honest with you, dude, I proved it in freshman physics.
Yeah.
I did. And I almost gave my freshman physics professor a heart attack. It was amazing. Like, I watched the man come up out of his chair and start sweating.
That way you did go to the moon?
Yeah, I proved that we went to the moon, but the way that I started it off looked like I was going to try and prove that it was a hoax.
Ah.
And what it was is the very end. So I'll give you a quick rundown on what it did.
Okay.
There's a thing called Einstein's equivalence principle, which I didn't know at the time, but that's kind of what I proved.
Okay.
And the Einstein's equivalence principle states that it is impossible to tell the difference between a uniformly accelerating reference frame or platform or whatever you want to call it and a gravitational field. So if gravity pulls us towards the Earth at 9.8 meters per second squared, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that and an object accelerating at 9.8 meters per second squared straight up. So, do you understand? It's the same thing being pulled back into your chair. It's that sort of thing. So if the house that we're in was accelerating at 9.8 meters per second squared up, it would be the same as the gravitational field. Everything would weigh the same. We would be able to sit here. That would sit there. Everything would be like it was.
Right. Okay.
So I did a thing with acceleration and a pendulum. And what we were proving was that the length of a pendulum doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the gravitational field the pendulum's in. When you're for frequency, it doesn't matter how far you pull it up. It doesn't matter how far you let it go. The only thing that'll change it is the length of the pendulum or the gravitational field that it's in, and that's what we were showing. Well, while I was researching this, I discovered a video from one of the Apollo missions where they were offloading equipment on the moon. Excuse me. One second.
Okay.
Where they were offloading equipment on the moon, and this piece of equipment sort of fell out of one of the bays, one of the scientific experimental bays, and started swinging back and forth like a pendulum. And so went and looked and saw some people had done some analysis, did a little analysis on my own, and so on and so forth. And based on this pendulum swinging, the size of the lunar lander next to it, and everything else, it shows that this pendulum is swinging in 1/6 gravity.
Okay.
It cannot be swinging on Earth. The only way you can make it swing that fast on Earth is to speed the video up. So what I did, at the end of it, because we presented our findings and so on and so forth, and I was like, but wait, while I was doing this research on the internet, I found all these people that said the moon landing was a hoax. So today, we're going to blow the lid off this thing. And of course, my professor's in the back, like, "Oh God, this is my real physics student. Like, this is the guy that's going on to get the degree. What's going on?"
Yeah.
And so I took the moon landing and I sped it up to the point that pendulum swings at a normal rate for what it is, and set it to yakety sax. And it is so sped up and so unbelievably absurd that people in those suits could move that fast and then have it slowed all the way down to look like 0G. Absolutely ridiculous. So literally sitting in my physics class, my freshman physics class, I showed that, yes, based on video evidence alone, we landed on the moon. And then there's this thing that I watched on that I saw on social media was the soles of the boots of Neil Armstrong's boots. They're different. They don't match the footprint that's on the moon. It's because he wore overshoes. Like that's the suit that he wore underneath what he wore when he was on the moon.
Yeah.
So of course it's not going to look the same. And I was like, how is this still? It's 2016. How are we still arguing over whether or not we went to the moon?
Yeah.
And I ended up unfollowing over that. It was like the third or fourth thing that they had posted in the last like 3 or 4 weeks that I was just like, this is ridiculous. I'm done.
Yeah.
But you get some of the conspiracy theories, you're like, wow, that's kind of neat. That's kind of cool. That could be real.
Maybe the government just built another moon closer.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, it wasn't. It was a smaller moon, 1/6 gravity, and we just put it closer so that we could just climb up onto it with a ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it just there's certain conspiracy theories that I think are kind of cool, and I like kind of buying into. But that's just one of them that I cannot and will not ever be able to fathom people that didn't think we went to the moon.
Yeah,
I can't.
That's one of those where, like, I've heard a lot of smart people, say, like, that we haven't been to the moon and have interesting evidence, and I'm just saying, like, oh, yeah, maybe not. I don't know. It's never one that I really saw anything that just made me go, wow.
Unfortunately, a lot of the times we didn't go to the moon ends up rolling in with flat Earth.
Yeah.
And when that, and so I like to have both barrels ready. So we're gonna go flat Earth on this, or we didn't go to the moon because I can do both, bro. Let's make this happen.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's disturbing: the amount of people that apparently these days are buying into the flat Earth concept.
Yeah, that's gotten really big.
Yeah, like I don't understand how that works.
Yeah.
Like how you get the flat Earth concept and how you make it function in your head.
Yeah.
Like I even read up on it.
Flat earther, but.
Well, I mean, it's real. I mean, what's the debate?
We'll talk later. The rest of the podcast on that.
I actually think that the Earth is a cube.
That would be, dude, given the gravity. Well, that's another thing. In order to be a flat earther, you have to believe that gravity doesn't exist. Things just fall.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the arguments. Like, I went to the website and looked. There's a flat Earth website.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. There's flat Earth documentaries.
Yeah, but
I haven't been able to get past 15 minutes.
Oh, dude, no, I like my TV too much to try and watch more than 15 minutes of any flat Earth documentary.
I followed Tila Tequila.
Oh my God!
On Twitter for months.
Is she a flat earther?
Oh yeah. Of course.
Well, of course. I mean, that's the. Okay, we'll let that go. But no, it's just to sit here and say there's no such thing as gravity. Things just fall. Like what? Like no, why? Why would they fall? Like I don't understand where that. And it blows my mind.
I mean, people are flat. Maybe that's what
we're all just flat. We're on a tiny. Well, now you're talking about M theory, and that's a totally different thing, and that takes a lot of math to look at. Okay. So that's a different. We don't have time for that.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah,
But if we're all in the Matrix, then technically they're right. The Earth is.
Well, if we're all in the Matrix, then the Earth doesn't actually exist. It's just a construct.
They can just say it's flat.
Yeah, which is actually a theory in theoretical physics that we all do basically live in the Matrix.
Yeah,
boils down to if the tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, then there's no tree.
Yeah,
and that actually is that's one of the more interesting ideas that come out of theoretical physics. I'm not sure I completely buy into it, but it is an interesting concept, and it's based on the observer principle from quantum mechanics.
It was interesting to me about the Matrix theory is there's so many levels to it. Like I think some people get this idea that it's like the movie, The Matrix, where there's like this alien race that has like taken us over and created it and plugged us all into it. Like that's not exactly the only option. There's lots of different possibilities where we created ourselves, maybe, or maybe it's actually just kind of like calling it the Matrix might just be a better understanding of what our reality actually is, or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is with the reality, and forgive me if I sound way too trippy here.
It's okay.
But the problem with reality is it's so unbelievably unreal.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense. Why would we find it unreal?
Well, I mean, okay, the case in point is that
that's all we know.
99% of everything that you know is solid is empty space.
Right.
Like the distance between the nucleus of an atom and the electrons that orbit that nucleus in relation to the size of the particles is ridiculous. if you, just as an example, if you, in just a hydrogen atom, if you were the nucleus, if you were the proton in a hydrogen atom, the electron would be somewhere, and this is a quick figure in my head, so don't, be like, oh, no, it's not. It's actually Pulaski. But no, the electron would be somewhere out near Lebanon right now.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That's the distance between those actual solid particles that we can measure. And so when you realize that 99% of everything that we see, taste, touch, feel, hear is empty space. And the only reason that you don't fall through to the center of the earth is because of electromagnetic resistance. And that's it. And those particles don't exist till somebody looks at them, till somebody observes them. And that's not some crazy theory. Like, that's been tested time and 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 time again.
So it's more, you think it's like matter is closer to information than it is?
No, matter is certainly closer to information than it is anything else.
Yeah. Hands
down, in the story, end of line, all matter is information. As one of our favorite shared comedians said, today a boy discovered that all matter is just merely energy slowed to a minor vibration, and we're all one new consciousness experiencing each other through ourselves. And back to you, Bob, with the weather.
Yeah.
So the cable guy is crazy.
Yeah, he gets a little rowdy.
He does. He gets really philosophical. Yeah. But reality, like, once you get down to the base level of what reality is, it's so unbelievably weird. All the way to the point, like, how does the nucleus of an atom stick together?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, think about it. You know what the center of an atom is protons and neutrons.
Yeah.
Protons are positive. All of them are positive. Neutrons are negative. Or neutrons are neutral. So you have a positively charged thing and a neutrally charged thing, and all of them just stick together. The negatively charged thing is out in Lebanon. Yeah. So how do you get a whole bunch of positively charged things and a whole bunch of neutrally charged things to all stick to each other close enough to create an actual element?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, it's so unbelievably unreal the way that reality works around us. So, you know what? Maybe it is a matrix type situation. I don't think it's a computer somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's a matrix of consciousness. That's what I've come to in all of my, staring at my navel. Moments, but that's what I've come to. That it is a matrix type situation. It is a reality that we create for ourselves, but it's a consciousness reality. That's the operating system it runs on.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, not at all. It's not a bad thing at all. I think it
might be a comforting thing.
Yeah, I mean, because there's something else somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, if we're here and we're doing this, then there's something else somewhere doing something else. I
think the big question, I guess, that a lot of people would have is like, are we like a prominent member of whatever this thing is? Because then you're always worried about being the prey and you don't know it.
Well, the thing is, if you think that the entire universe, if the entire universe, our entire concept of reality is based on consciousness, and we're consciousness, then at some point we're part of that thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there is a higher or a lower part of it. I think it's all consciousness, and everybody is in their place with it. Is the risk of sounding too, new agey, Eastern philosophy, whatever. But I think that really is it. I don't think even if aliens showed up tomorrow and were a billion years advanced ahead of us, I don't think they would be a bigger player in the fabric of the universe than we are.
Just have better tools.
They would just have better tools and be further along. They're conscious that they may be more intelligent, and they may have a better understanding of their consciousness. But it's all still consciousness. The way I see it. Yeah. I'm consciousness. You're consciousness. That sandbag is consciousness. That chair over there is consciousness. Everything is made up of consciousness. What we observe, what we what flows through. What I was telling you was going to give you a hard time about earlier. It's very much similar to the Force.
Yeah.
It is in everything. It makes up everything. It is literally just consciousness. And I think you have people that have figured that out and are able to manipulate it. And you see it, in miracles and things like that you see people do. And so I think it is very much, an entire matrix system, an entire simulation, but that simulation runs on consciousness. And one day it'll end and there'll be a new simulation and we'll run on consciousness. You know what I mean? And it's a gentleman that I admire greatly, who I've never met, but I've read a ton of his books. He does a lot of really like trippy mind bending stuff. Give me 1 second. A lot of trippy mind bending stuff. His concept, and it's really interesting to me, is that we're all one consciousness, and at one point we were all together in one sort of cloud of consciousness, and it was really boring because we knew everything and we knew what was going to happen when it was going to happen because we were just thinking about it and we were just one big consciousness. And so we decided that we would create this thing and break ourselves up into a trillion different shards of consciousness and deposit ourselves in individuals so that we can sit there and talk to ourselves without thinking we're crazy.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I'm you and you're me and we're both him over there. And so it's a very interesting, a lot of it, like I said, very, very Eastern philosophy kind of stuff. But if once you break down into the way quantum mechanics works and probabilities and the way we know now that the universe functions, it lends itself to that.
Yeah, that's science. Like, I don't know if that's even a thing or not, but like scientific philosophy is always.
Well, that's what physics is.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, physics is philosophy with some math applied to it. Like, we go, wouldn't that be interesting? Will somebody do an experiment? Can we get an equation that makes that sense? Yep, there we go.
Yeah.
And then 15 other people, 20 other people, 2,000 other people come along behind us and go, okay, does this work? It works. Okay, that's weird, but we're good, Yeah. Time not being linear. That's another thing that not even I get to wrap my head around on a regular basis. But time isn't linear; it flows both directions. Things work one way that work the other. Yeah. Thermodynamics, obviously, there's times that it doesn't. But
our perception of time has always been something that's interesting to me. Like I talked about this with Dad before. It's weird how like our perception of time with like other people is, of course, like how they age, because people they tend to age about the same. Mm-hmm. But like a building, for example, you might see a brick building that's like 300 years old, and it's not all that different. Mm-hmm. And really, our perception of time is just how we see things change and how fast they change. And it's just kind of interesting to me, like the different. I don't know. It's kind of like I don't know. I can't think of how to explain it.
No, I know how to explain it because it was. I know exactly what you're saying because it was kind of interesting. I every once in a while, I like to read, heart-touching stories. And somebody posted a thing the other day that I was reading about dogs. And I love animals in general. Dogs are amazing creatures, but I love animals in general. But dogs are great. But it was this story about this dog talking about his owner, his human, and he talks about how he has protected my family generations after generation after generation. He was a young boy when my great grandfather was lying on his deathbed, and it goes to this whole thing. And now the guy is dying, and he's talking about how he'll stay with him and he'll protect him until the end. But if it's interesting to think about what you were just saying, like our perception is how other things age. So if we had the lifespan of a dog, and we were looking back at us, like how that would have, how dogs experience time because they live so much less time than we do.
Right.
And I thought that first of all, it was a very, very heart touching story to hear this dog talk about this person that had protected his family for generations.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, it is to think about that this dog grew up only knowing you, and you were the person that was there with his parents, and so on and so on and so on backward. But I think I think that just it's just a cute way of reiterating what you were saying, that our perception of time is based on, because I mean you have a kid and then you think, oh my, they're 3. I remember this. They were just the other day, and you start marking the years by the age of your child, and then I think you become very, very aware of time up until that point. I don't know that people.
I think that's why we see time in a linear fashion, is because that's our only. I mean, that's really the only clue that we have of time in some ways, right? Is that things change, and we remember when we like have a memory, and so we're like, oh, that looks like this now, and it used to look like that, and before that it looked like that.
Right, but the interesting thing is that's just entropy.
I'm not sure.
Entropy is the so entropy is the concept that everything is trying to obtain the same energetic level, and that one day the universe will basically experience heat death, where every particle in the universe attains the same level of energy. There's no more energy to be exchanged, and there's no more reactions. There's no more reactions. Everything dies. Yeah. But that's what entropy is. It's everything sort of tending towards chaos. It's reactions happening. It's metal rusting. It's concrete oxidizing and falling apart. But it's literally just every reaction in the universe trying to get to its lowest energy level, and we see it happening. And it's the closest thing we have to being able to actually measure time is how entropy affects things, and that's where our concept of linear time comes, is watching entropy happen.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what's happening, to your body and my body as we age. The cells in it are oxidizing. There are reactions happening. The molecules within our system, the atom within those molecules, are all trying to get to the lowest energy state. And so over time, the oxygen reacts with them, and you get cell oxidation, which everybody stop your free radicals and stop oxidation. The greatest cosmic joke is the one thing that we need almost more than anything in the world to survive is the one thing that slowly kills us, oxygen.
Oh yeah.
And so, but it's just, the concept of linear time is just watching entropy do its thing.
And it could be that is, maybe that's not even what time is in the first place. We think of time being the actual measurement of. I guess that is time. Never mind.
Well, no, I mean, but time's a weird thing. Time is completely relative. I mean, if you we did general relativity in physics, and which is not a subject I suggest anyone ever just take on a whim. I took it as an elective, which was the only reason I passed it. One of the very, very few classes that I took that I thanked my professor for the C, because it was bad. But you go into that looking at space-time warp and how gravity affects space-time and you realize that time really is in a higher gravitational field. It moves differently than it does in a low gravitational field. So the GPS clocks on satellites have to be constantly reset because time flows completely differently up there than it does down here.
I know, it's so bizarre. I've seen some documentaries and stuff about that. So bizarre.
The astronauts don't age as quickly as we do.
Yeah,
and it's very, very bizarre. The closer to the speed of light you get, the slower slower time becomes.
That's kind of the idea with the movie Planet of the Apes, basically, right?
I think to a certain extent, not so much with the remakes.
So much. It's like, but it's like they're, that's right, not the remakes, but like the original one, Charlton Heston and everything. The whole idea is that so much time passed on Earth, and they're still.
Yeah, they're still young. And that would happen to you. And I don't remember if it was sort of a.
Was it because they were in hibernation, or
I think there was a hibernation situation. That wasn't a speed of light.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were hibernating or something.
That's what it was.
But but speed of light's it's very similar.
It'd be the same.
Yeah, the closer you get to the speed of light, the slower time moves around or for you. So time around you would speed up. So as you got close to the speed of light, a second for you would be, 1,500 years back on Earth, depending on how close you are to the speed of light. They touched on that in Interstellar. I don't know if you saw that.
I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, where they were on the planet for 2 hours, and when they got back to orbit, it had been 7 years.
Yeah,
and that's not speed of light. That's gravitational lensing. That's gravitational time dilation. Gravitational time dilation, and then that again is general relativity, where the higher the gravitational field, it affects how time moves.
A comedian, Carter Glasscock, he once said that the movie Interstellar was like 2001: A Space Odyssey for dummies.
I don't know how Kip Thorne would feel about that, but
which I was like. Well, I like that movie, but okay, I guess so.
Well, what's interesting about that though is if you I don't want to argue with Mr. Glasscock, but the guy that did I don't know who Stanley Kubrick's scientific advisor was.
Yeah.
But the guy that did the scientific advising for Interstellar literally helped write the book on gravity.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. It's about that thick. And it's the standard textbook for both undergraduate and graduate level general relativity study.
Yeah. It's cool when they do that with movies.
Yeah,
where they really try to, even with sci-fi, they try to really nail it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find out. I've heard a couple of different people have told me that he actually got the guy's name's Kip Thorne, and he actually got a couple of papers out of the Gargantua, the black hole.
Oh yeah,
because he wrote the physics for the effects that generate he wrote the physics that they used to generate the effects for the accretion disk of Gargantua.
That was really cool.
Yeah, and a lot of people looked at it and went, nope, that's probably what the accretion disk of a hole that he basically, from what I understand, got Hollywood to pay for a massive mathematical simulation of a superstellar mass black hole.
Oh.
And had them kind of put it on the screen as a special effect.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think Kip just did it because he was like, let's just see if we can do this and get them to go through with it. And he had Christopher Nolan's brother or somebody like that had gone to Caltech where he taught, and they got together and came up with the idea for Interstellar.
I thought Matthew McConaughey did a great job in the movie too.
Oh yeah, no,
people give him a hard time, but I mean, he was.
No, man, he's good. I like Matthew McConaughey.
He fit in that. He kind of had a sort of cowboy attitude.
Yeah,
a little bit.
no, he totally fit. But that's the thing. That's the thing with Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey is a good actor, but he's always Matthew McConaughey.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're like Matthew McConaughey as Matthew McConaughey in Sahara. You know, and it's like okay, but you're like, do I want to see Matthew McConaughey tonight? Because that's what I'm going to see. You know, there's not a lot of range on Matthew, but I'd rather watch Matthew McConaughey than Keanu Reeves any day of the week. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But no, Matthew McConaughey is very much Matthew McConaughey in every film he's in. Matthew
McConaughey's downfall is car commercials. That's that's where he just does not
really
work.
I think that's some of his best work.
I don't know. I'll see him flying to black holes all day long.
I just as long as I don't have to watch him driving.
Drive another Buick. I'm not into it.
At least he's got a good American car that he's hawking.
That's true. I'll give him that.
It's not a Jaguar.
Jim Carrey did a funny like a spoof on those commercials. You know, McConaughey does the thing where he's like this, and Jim Carrey was like, whenever I get done rolling up this booger.
I saw that one, because he does have that sort of twitch that he does.
Yeah.
But no, I actually like Matthew McConaughey in Contact.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Where he's talking about, if there's nobody else up there, that's an awful waste of space.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a pretty cool.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, Contact. No, I liked Contact. I like Contact quite a bit. I like Matthew McConaughey in a lot of stuff, in a lot of his movies. Yeah, no,
he's good in Wolf of Wall Street. He had a small role, but
I haven't seen Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Is it? I'll check it out at some point, but I never.
The story how that movie came about is actually really interesting. Tommy Chong was in jail in California because his son was selling memorabilia. Is that the right word? No, it's not. I forget what they call it. Stuff for smoking pot.
Paraphernalia.
There
we go. Spelling pot memorabilia.
Yeah.
How does that work out exactly?
Paraphernalia memorabilia.
I think an old notebook and an ink pen is pot memorabilia because it'll help you remember everything while you're high.
The original 1972  number 1 High Times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Remember?
Sort of.
Not really, man.
Yeah. No. But his son had a business selling that stuff, and was using, of course, his name to sell it. But apparently it was illegal, or it was not in California, but he was like selling to California, and that was illegal or something.
Oh, okay.
So he ended up getting in trouble. So they put Tommy Chong in jail to try to like make an example of him or something.
Of course.
So anyways, he's in jail, and I'm guessing he went to like the fancy jail because he has money and stuff. Not that I said that like I have fault him for that. I mean, he's great.
If I had the money, I'd go to the fancy jail.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, and if anyone deserves money, it's definitely him.
Yeah, no kidding. He's awesome.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So he ends up being apparently in the cell or in the pod, whatever, with the actual guy that it was the what movie Wolf of Wall Street was portraying, and. This guy apparently was just like telling him about his life, and he was like, "Man, it's like you got to write a book. Like you've had some interesting things happen to your life.
No
like
kidding,
like you became this like incredibly wealthy person, and then you like lost it all, and now you're in jail and all this stuff
with me.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's like, really? Like, okay. So he wrote a book, and then they ended up making a movie out of it. So like, doesn't seem to be any connection between Tommy Chong
and Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah.
But literally, like, it wouldn't have existed without him.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
And now the guy's got tons of money again because the Wolf of Wall Street.
Probably.
So, I mean, he got rights off of it, so he made pretty good cash.
Unless he blew it. Oh.
He already blew it all. Yeah, and he's back in jail. This time with Cheech Marin. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you loved him before, you'll love him again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This would be a new Cheech and Chong movie with that guy in it, like the original Wolf of Wall Street guy.
Cheech and Chong and the Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably rent it at Redbox. I don't think I'd actually pay to see it in the movies, though.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It was.
No, I was talking about Cheech and Chong and the
Wolf
of
Wall
Chong,
Street.
I think I'd Redbox that, or maybe even some sort of streaming service.
Yeah, there you go, Netflix or something.
Yeah, exactly. Netflix, Hulu, something. If I had to like pay for it, I might not watch it.
If they make another Cheech and Chong and they don't put it on Netflix, like,
why would you?
It?
Yeah, why even bother making it? Yeah.
Yeah. The first one was good. That was funny.
I've only seen like one or two of the Cheech and Chong's movies, and I guess that's because I never like fully got into the culture that embraces Cheech and Chong, and so but I've only seen one or two. But I mean, I hear they're absolutely hilarious.
Especially the first one, like some of the bits that they do, especially that first one. It literally was like a bunch of sketches thrown together in some ways.
So kind of like Life of Brian or Meaning of Life.
Yeah, I guess so in some ways, and And the entire movie, this you know how long the script was for that movie? 1 page.
And the rest of it's just improv.
Literally.
That's kind of awesome. Now I might have to watch it just to see how that works.
Yeah,
because that does sound pretty cool. It's all taken in one shot. There was one page of script, and the rest of it was just them just riffing.
Yeah. See if you can find because we don't even need the video for this. Just the audio is funny.
All right.
It might have cussing in it. I'll cut it out later. There's a sketch that they do. There's a scene where they get pulled over by the cops, and they're in that car in the first one. And
here we go. Cheech and Chong pulled over scene.
Okay,
it popped right up. I put Cheech and Chong, and then I typed the letter P, and it was like, we got it.
So then, dang you, Google and your mind reading abilities.
The first one's Up in Smoke, right?
Yeah. Is the computer plugged in with that little red cord and the headphone jack?
Yeah. Well, I see the little red cord over here.
Is it plugged into the laptop?
Of course not. Hold on.
Okay.
There's the red cord. Is it plugged in on this end? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it plugged in on both ends?
It's plugged into the mixer.
And the laptop. Okay.
All right. Let me get it into the laptop without breaking anything.
Okay.
Let's keep our fingers crossed on that one, Joe.
Yeah. I am totally scared. Let's see.
After all this, it won't even be that
I plugged it into the headphone. Yeah.
Well, I'd just be like, well, that was amusing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it should be headphone in.
Okay. Yeah, and then it's into the mixer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
let's just hope it's not ear-splittingly loud.
Yeah.
See,
my ears are bleeding.
Let's go ahead and check that.
Yeah.
Notice I got my.
I think I've got the volume pretty good on it.
All right, let's check this out right here. Let's see.
Listen, man.
Okay.
I can't breathe, man. Well, here. Hey, man. Hey, I got something that'll mellow you out, man. You're just freaking out. Here.
I never smoked no shit like that before.
Take these,
What?
man. Take these. This will
What
mellow
is
you
this?
out, man.
What is that, man?
Let's take them, man. Hey, don't take those, man.
What?
I almost gave you the wrong shit, man.
Hey, man, I already took them, man.
Wow, man.
Hey, what was that shit, man?
You just ate the most acid I've ever seen anybody eat in my life.
Hey, man, I never had no acid before, man.
I hope you're not busy for about a month.
That's just gonna make me die, man.
No, that's good acid.
Hey, man, I never had it before, man. That's gonna make me die. This is gonna make me freak out, man. I seen those guys that walk around my neighborhood had too many acid, man. Their head looked like a pumpkin like that, man.
Wow, relax, man. Hey, mellow out, man. Now just go, oh.
What?
Do it, man.
It's got him doing Buddhist chants.
Mellow. Mellow. Yeah. You better now, man?
Yeah.
You mellow? Feel alright, huh?
The thing is, I don't need the video because I know what's going on. And I've never seen the movie.
All right.
Oh, listen, he goes.
Yeah, now here's the cop coming up right behind him.
That's good. You can stop it there.
Okay.
But he's like, that's that part. He goes after he's like, ah. He's like, why'd you do that for? He goes, sometimes that happens, man.
I'll have to check that one out.
I love that part so much.
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens.
Sometimes it happens, man. It's life. It's the way it works out, dude.
Well, what's great about Cheech and Chong to me, it's like they created the category of like stoner comedy.
Yeah, they did. You can definitely give them that.
And a lot of people, they're like, oh, it's so dumb. It's such stupid humor. But if you really listen to it, it's like genius in its stupidity.
Yeah, no, it's because it does kind of like, I hope you're not doing anything for about a month, man. That kind of. Yeah.
It's like, oh, don't take those.
whoa. Yeah, that is. I mean, it's. We actually were watching the Muppet Show.
The YouTube one?
The new one that lasted for like 2 seasons on ABC.
Oh, okay.
And there was one where Fozzie gets shot with a tranquilizer dart, and he's like, Kermit, have you ever been shot with a tranquilizer dart? And Kermit's like, no, but I licked my cousin once and the wall started to melt. And I think we can thank Cheech and Chong for humor like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's great.
No, I'll have to look into them a little more. I'm very narrow in my viewing of video and movies and things like that. I probably don't soak in as much comedy as I should from time to time. But I watched Scrooge last night for like the 50th time because it's Christmas.
Scrooge, I get it mixed up with another movie. Is that the one that's not the Dave Chappelle?
No.
Bill Murray. Yeah.
Bill Murray.
What movie am I thinking of? Because I know the Bill Murray is Scrooge. That's a funny movie. But there's another movie with Dave Chappelle that's like a Christmas movie, and Norm Macdonald's in it.
Yeah.
And they steal.
It's the one where every time that Dave Chappelle gets afraid, he picks up something and hits somebody with it.
Yeah.
That was like his defense mechanism. Every time somebody scares him, he just picks up a lamp and cracks it over somebody's head.
They go to like Norm Macdonald's is a butler or something, and they try to like kidnap the lady's dog or something.
I haven't seen that one. Yeah.
I get it mixed up. Anyways.
No, I think Scrooge is like
Scrooge
a
is
Christmas
great.
classic.
Oh, yeah.
That Die Hard and The Ref.
Yeah.
Those are kind of our three. We're weird. Those are our Christmas movies, but yeah.
Die Hard's great.
Yeah. Oh, and now Krampus. We watch Krampus every year.
I haven't seen that.
It's campy and fun.
Is
it
it?
really is. Yeah. And I love the fact that Krampus is like making a huge like mainstream comeback now.
Yeah.
He's he's Santa's helper. He's the one that takes care of the naughty children, so Santa doesn't have to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's been a thing. Like they have full on. I think it's December 5th or 6th every year. Is literally Krampusnacht, and they have these huge. I mean, if you ever want to see something freaky, just like get up on YouTube and look at Krampusnacht parades.
Oh,
They're full things. Like they do them. They're mostly alpine, like the mountainous areas of Germany and
okay.
Switzerland and things like that. But yeah, they have these full on like Krampusnacht parades, and he looks like a big furry demon.
Wow, that sounds crazy.
But it's where the lump of coal thing comes from.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't that children would get lumps of coal. It's that if the children were bad, Krampus would come and beat them with reeds and put them in a bag and leave their parents a lump of coal in exchange for their child.
Oh, that's even more intense.
Yeah, but if you think about it, like in the Alpine, in the time where the myth of Krampus comes from, in the Alpine countries, in the middle of the winter, a lump of coal was hey, that ain't a small thing to get left, you know.
Oh yeah.
And so it was more of a threat. Like, you know, if you're not a good child, Krampus is going to come and take you away, and then we'll be warm for the winter, and we won't care. You know, so it's a different concept now where you get a lump of coal, but back then a lump of coal was a big deal. Get you through the winter, save your life.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
I think the name of that movie with Chappelle and Norm Macdonald is called Screwed.
Oh, that's
the-
that would explain why you get it mixed with Scrooged. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
I saw that there's going to be a Bad Santa too.
Yeah.
I like the first one.
I did too. I just don't know if I'm ready for 2. You know what I mean? It's just like that's okay, but how long are we going to stretch that bit out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I will say Bad Santa. Not that I was a huge fan of it to begin with, but Bad Santa. I will never be able to watch Gilmore Girls.
Oh yeah.
As long as I live, because
Oh,
the main
that's right. That
character,
is
the main one. Yeah, and I just have that one scene which I can't repeat on this show.
Yeah.
Stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Oh, every time I see her, I'm like, "Yep, there we go." And so yeah, I'll never be able to watch Gilmore
Yeah.
Girls. I don't care how many episodes they put on Netflix. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen. So
My wife watches that show all the time.
does she really? Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't. I'd lose it every time I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, "Quit laughing at the show." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Sorry." All right.
I feel weird saying my wife since you know her. I would normally say her name, but this is
Yeah.
I don't
I got you.
reveal her name. On
No,
the
I
show.
get it. It's like I say my fiance. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I tell you. No, I get you. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. Billy Bob Thornton is great though.
I love
liked
Billy
him.
Bob Thornton. No, he's. I mean, besides the fact that he's apparently 15 pallets shy of a load. Other than that, I think he's a pretty good guy as far as actors go. So.
Have you guys ever watched a movie that he did? It was right after Sling Blade, if I'm not mistaken, called Daddy and Them.
Mm-mm. Never
It's
heard
got
of that.
Andy
No.
Griffith, Jim Varney's in it, John Prine is in it.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
an odd.
Yeah, it's a wonderful movie that nobody's ever watched but me and about 3 other people.
What's do I want to know what the basis of this movie is?
There's an alcoholic family, and Jim Varney, also known as Ernest P. Worrell.
Yeah, I know who Jim Varney. Yeah.
He goes to prison, and the family gets together to rally around him. And yeah, that's about all you need to know. And just a lot of people just being weird. the entire time. But it's a really good movie.
He did a lot of movies like that in his early careers. Just
Yeah.
a lot of people just being weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like he was totally 100% normal in Sling Blade. So I mean,
Yeah.
people to
That is
this
a great
day
movie.
still in French fried taters. Like people
Yeah.
still do that.
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
it's weird what becomes iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
so-
man, Dwight Yoakam in that movie was something
Oh
else,
my
wasn't
God.
he?
Dude, that whole movie, man. Like I think I've actually like blocked just portions of that movie out because it was so you're just like, oh no, I don't need that rattling around inside my
Yeah.
cranium, dude. No, I'm
Dwight
I'm good.
Yoakam was like the perfect. Like he played that role so perfectly of that guy that he was supposed to be. You know?
I
But just
but that. Ooh, I think
What's
I've.
great about that movie is that you watch it the first time as a drama, and then if you watch it again, you see how much of a comedy it really is.
Because I think the second time around you just reach critical mass of WTF, and you're just like laughing hysterically because your brain cannot process any more of whatever this is in front of you.
Yeah.
So-
There's one part with the Dwight Yoakam and the little boy where the little boy throws beer cans at him whenever he was drunk,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's kicking him out of the house or whatever. And the little boy goes, "I hate you," and he goes, "I hate you too, you little SOB." And then he goes, "Nah, I take it back. I love your mama," and then just staggers out.
You know what other movie did that to me, and it did it to me before the movie was over, and that was Silent Hill.
Never seen that.
Don't bother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's if anybody ever tells you to see Silent Hill, shoot them. They're not your friend.
Okay.
I feel the same way about the new Independence Day movie. Either
Oh
one of those.
man, because I love the first one. But
Yeah, have you
just-
seen the second one?
Yeah, it's just
Oh my
terrible.
god! Like I, the problem with the second one, man, is I went into it knowing it was bad, and I was still disappointed.
Yeah.
I just I was like, oh my, really? Like there were times when I was like, who directed this? Yui
Yeah.
Bowl?
I
Like
didn't
this
think it
is
was gonna-
horrible.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be great, but I was like, oh, I loved Independence Day.
Yeah.
This is kind of exciting. It's got some of the same people in it.
Yeah.
This will be kind of just a fun, cool movie. See some cool stuff flying around.
About halfway through, you're like, I totally see why Will Smith skipped on this.
I didn't finish it. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I did. I'm one of those people that's just like, nope, dude, I've started this thing. Like, we're just gonna ride it out, boss.
I fell asleep about maybe 60%, 70% through.
No, I watched it. I watched it all the way through, and yeah, gave me a great example of like how not to tell a story.
Oh, yeah.
Again, Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum. That's just.
Yeah.
And the acting was horrible, and the directing was horrible, and it said a couple of times you're just like, is he doing a commercial? Like, why?
Yeah.
It was, like, why did they deliver that line that way? And you feel like the only thing that saved the movie in different parts was what the actors that knew how to act looked at the director and went, no, we're not doing it that way. Watch.
Yeah.
Because everyone in the movie was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, when you've got Jeff Goldblum being horrible on screen, like horrible on screen,
Yeah.
you have to kind of look at it and go, that has to be direction.
Yeah.
It has to be. It's like Ben Kingsley in the Blood Rain movie, and just like there's no way that's Gandhi. How did you make Gandhi a bad actor? Like, what did you do to have that happen? You know what I mean? And so
It is weird when you'll see good actors just perform very poorly.
Yeah.
I guess the director really
I
makes a big difference.
always have to blame it on direction, because you can't have that many off days.
Yeah.
I mean, movies take a long time to film. I mean, and then even then you reshoot. At some point, the guy in charge had to go, no, that's it, put it in the can, and you're like, that was the take that you decided to go with.
I think sometimes maybe what it is like they just don't have that big of a budget for some of these movies, but they spend a lot on these actors, but they only hire them for because usually actors that get paid per day, and so they're like, well, we got to have X person in this movie. We can only afford them for 2 days. So we just got to get everything done.
Everything done in those 2 days.
In 2 days, and just having their name on the film is going to be enough to make money.
Well, Goldblum was all throughout it, though.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Like, I don't know if he did it as a favor, because the guy that did Independence Day 2 was the same. I mean, he was heavily involved in Independence Day.
Yeah.
And his name's escaping me right now, but I think the big problem with Independence Day was Insurgents, Resurgence, whatever they were calling it. He had partial writing credit. He was also the producer, and he was also the director. And I don't think you can ever pull that off.
Yeah.
And have it be anything. Of course, exception to the rule. There's always going to be the exception to the rule. But I think by and large, I don't think you can have somebody who's producer, director, and a writing credit, because that's a very monolithic creative process. There's nobody else in there with you going, dude, that was what? No, he should never have delivered that line that way.
Yeah. And also, like, I can't think of an example of a movie where there's been a movie that's just been a great movie, and then, like, you know, more than 7 or 8 years later, they come out with the sequel and it's good.
Yeah.
When there's like a big gap, you know.
I'm trying to think if there's anything out there and I can't either, and that's what's scaring the heck out of me.
Usually great sequels. There's some time. You know, like Terminator, let's say. Like Terminator 2 is an amazing sequel.
Right.
That's what I was going to suggest. Terminator 2, between, I think it was 84 and 91, would probably be the longest stretch I could think of off the top of my head. But
that's you still feel like, okay, that's somewhat... Because, I mean, Independence Day, the first one came out, what, 97?
Yeah.
And that one came out a couple of years ago. So
no, that one came out this year.
This year? So...
Yeah. I mean, it was almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it came out in 96.
96, okay.
Because they make a statement in the movie 20 years ago today. Like it was, I think it was 20. I think it was, They tried to release it right around the 4th of July, like they did, but like they tried to do everything that they did before, and it was still just absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange is good though.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Check
very,
it out.
Very good. Yeah.
I heard there's several good movies. Like Heartbreak Ridge, I heard was not Heartbreak Ridge.
Hacksaw
Ridge.
I want to go. I think I'm going to see Hacksaw. I'm iffy on war movies. For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I may rent that. And watch it. But I heard it was good. But we had a good run there for a hot minute. We saw Doctor Strange, Fantastic Beasts, and Arrival, one a week, and so we had a really good run of movies there for a hot minute. I was actually kind of happy.
That reminds me, there was two things I wanted to ask you about in this show. Like just talk about everything else. With the flag thing, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, since you're a former Marine, I said that right.
Yeah,
former Marine.
There you
go. And I was afraid I'm going to screw that up somehow. Yeah. And incur the wrath of every Marine.
Just don't say X.
Yeah,
just don't say X, and don't say you used to be, and you'll be good to go. You're a former Marine, you're good to go. Yeah.
Or just that you still are a Marine, right?
Yeah. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Yeah.
All right, cool. What do you think about this? The Mad Dog,
General Mattis.
Yeah.
I think Secretary of Defense. Yeah. I think it's a good idea. I don't think you should make him Secretary of State or Secretary of anything else. But for who General Mattis is, and the way he is, I think having him as Secretary of Defense is an excellent idea.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a lot of hot air and hullabaloo. Oh, well, he's supposed to be a civilian in charge of this and that and the other, and so I'm not going to vote to whoever that senator was or representative was. Like, I'm not going to vote for the waiver. Well, you'll be like one of two people that don't. So enjoy yourself over there.
Yeah.
But he's very intelligent. He's very well thought out. He is a hell of a strategist. He well read. Very, very intelligent individual, and so I think he's one coin. No greater friend, no worse enemy. No better friend, no worse enemy. And I think that sort of mentality is in for the entire American military is something you need.
Yeah.
I would like to see our intervention around the world get drawn back considerably. But he won't have any. That's the thing about the Secretary of Defense. While it's
not really his thing.
Yeah, it's not really his thing. I mean, once somebody somewhere else makes a decision that we're going to go to war, then then he has some say and some input. But the Secretary of Defense has even less input in the day-to-day functions, I think, of the military than the Joint Chiefs of Staff and of course, obviously, the Commandant and people like that in the Marine Corps and then their equivalent in the different branches. So it'll be interesting to see. He'll have more of a say over like big policy decisions and how we do this and how we do that, and the big the broad policy decisions. It won't be the day-to-day operation of the military. It won't be whether we're going to go when we're going to go to war, how we're going to go to war. He'll have some say over things like that. But again, the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the generals are going to make more of those statements. So I think it's an interesting idea. I think it's a good idea. I think a lot of people think the Secretary of Defense has a lot more input than he does. He's more of just sort of the military advisor to the president than anything else. But I think if you're going to have one, Mad Dog's a good one to have.
Yeah, I've heard he's well liked because
he's definitely well liked.
He led the Marines into Fallujah or right?
Well, I believe it was it Fallujah?
Is that where you were you in Fallujah or
I was I was on Azaria. We started Ali al Salim on Azaria. then we ended up just outside of Baghdad for a hot minute, and then I got to come home from there. But I was I was outside. I wasn't. It wasn't. We saw some stuff, but we weren't in Fallujah and Nazaré. That's a different level of hell that I'm eternally thankful every day that I didn't have to experience. But you know, he I believe it may have been Fallujah that he led the Marines into.
I heard that's where he got his nickname.
Yeah. It was one of the campaigns in Iraq, and now that you mention, I think it was Fallujah.
Yeah,
I've been out of that culture for a hot minute, so I'm not as up on it as I should be, but enough to know that Mad Dog was a good choice. And I do hope he gets the waiver. Yeah,
and a lot of people are saying that he's like a modern day Patton in some
ways.
Yeah,
very, 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 very much so. In the way that they both approached war, you know, it's you know, I come in peace. I didn't bring any artillery, but I sit here pleading you with tears in my eyes with me, and I'll kill you all.
Yeah,
you know, that's a Mad Dog Mattis quote. You know, and so it's
a very Patton kind of thing.
Yeah, very, very Patton kind of thing to say, and I think that more so than, you know, no better friend, no worse enemy. That part about, you know, I mean, I'll kill you all. That's my favorite Mad Dog Mattis quote, because
he was absolutely the commander in Fallujah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on the flag thing.
Yeah.
You know, my opinion is just like, obviously it's, you know, it's the American flag. It means a lot of important stuff.
But everything
even just to me.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is just a flag, and if people want to burn it, that's their right.
Actually, I go completely the other direction with it. Oddly enough, I think enshrined within everything that flag stands for is the right to burn it. It is a symbol. It's a symbol of everything that makes this country great. I've got one on my mantle that was draped over my grandfather's casket. Some of my friends have come home underneath it, you know. But everything that's in it is what gives this person out here, whatever you want to call them, the right to burn it. Yeah. I think it's a stupid way to protest. I think it's an ignorant thing to do. I think there's so many things about it that raise a visceral reaction within me. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's there. But it's that person's right. It's that person's right to do it. You know, there's a Penn and Teller bit that they do on West Wing about it. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not before. It's amazing. I don't know how you feel about him being in the industry, but that Penn Jillette is one of my all-time heroes.
I would say I'm in the industry with comedy for
sure.
Attempting to maybe.
Yeah, pretending to be in the industry. I think you're more of a connoisseur of comedy and stand-up than I am, and you probably. I mean,
it's like anything you do, you can't help but.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, I sit there and go, "That's funny." You know, you have a deeper understanding of timing and the way it works, and so I think it's like, you know, a lot of artists won't play Nashville because they don't want people picking apart their performance, and so I think, you know, you got 1,000 musicians in the audience that know that you didn't hit that note quite right, you know. So I think if you're into it to the point that you perform it, I think you'll definitely have a different opinion of it than somebody, you know, just sitting there with their teeth in their mouth laughing at the person on stage. And so that's why, you know, you know, to whatever extent you're in it. I mean, it's what you enjoy doing it. You participate in it. So you know, whether you're just on the fringes of it, you're in it, you know, as far as I'm concerned. But again, it was a bit on the West Wing that they did where they took an American flag and they rolled it up, and they took, you know, this thing and they wrapped it around it, and then Penn held it under his arm, and Teller flicked a match underneath it, and it poof, flash paper, you know, poof, and it's gone. And they're like, did he just burn an American flag in the West Wing of the White House? And then he unrolls what it's wrapped in, and it's the Constitution. You know, and that's what protects us. That's where our rights are. And I think that, you know, I read a thing the other day that said I would rather deal with someone who burns the flag and wraps himself, or I don't want to deal with someone who wraps himself in the flag and burns the Constitution. I would rather deal with someone who wraps himself in the Constitution and burns the flag.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, it is a symbol of everything that this country is. But everything this country is why you get to burn it. Right. You know what I mean? I think it's short-sighted. I think it's ignorant. But it is what it is, and I don't think it should be illegal. Yeah,
especially like a year in jail.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's just, you know...
you know, what Trump tweeted. I mean, he just tweeted it. It's not
but Clinton had the same idea.
Yeah.
You know, they're we're here. They're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like fascism and socialism. They're two sides of the same coin. They're not any different. And Clinton and Trump are not any different. I think Trump sold himself a little better, and Clinton's just not trustworthy.
Yeah.
On any level, no one knew what she thought.
Right.
Telling that you got to have one voice in public, or one opinion in public, and one opinion and you can have your own opinion in private. That kind of thing. All the emails that came out from Podesta's account, like she was not a great candidate, and she lost to Trump. Which was not a great candidate.
Right.
But they're both. I mean, nothing's going to come out of this. What? Do you think we're going to get less of a surveillance state now? Do you think we're going to get less of our rights violated now? You think we're going to get less of anything that we had before?
Maybe
No.
different ones.
Yeah, you'll have different rights violated. Maybe a different group of friends will have their rights trampled than me and a few others that had my rights trampled under the last administration. It's no better. It's no different.
Yep.
It's the same Leviathan juggernaut moving forward, consuming everything in its path, and we just happen to be in its path.
Yeah.
She would have, she had the same opinion 10 years ago.
Yeah, and again, to me, like we talked about earlier with weapons, being kind of the really the backbone of so many things in our society.
Mm-hmm.
The way that we interact with each other, whether we realize it or not. It's so important that civilians.
Oh no, 100%. I mean. I'm not a huge fan of his economics, but one of the things that Mr. Tung Mao Tse said, all authority flows from the barrel of a gun.
Yeah,
that's it. If you surrender your ability to defend yourself, you surrender your ability to do damage in return to any damage done to you. You've surrendered your authority over yourself.
It's like that old saying, quote, whatever people say, which is mightier the pen or the sword. It's like the pen is irrelevant without the sword.
Yeah,
I've always looked at it.
Yeah, no, because I mean, what happens? It doesn't matter if you can motivate 1 million people if they have no way to do anything with it. What's it matter?
Yeah,
I understand the idea behind the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah, and I think the pen is mightier than the sword if it's backed.
Well, it always is going to be. I mean, one of the things that I was talking about earlier before we started the podcast. Government being that entity which reserves into itself the sole right to do violence. I mean, that's what government is. It is violence. It is violence. It is coercion.
Right.
And so you write something with a pen and you inspire a bunch of people and they get together and vote. And all of a sudden you've got a government. And now the government can do this. So, but that's still at the end of the day backed up by violence.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just even the fact that you have the option, there's just feeling like you have, like being able to own the same firearms that. The average government official might be walking around with, or it's cop, military, or whatever. It feels like you matter. You know what I mean? Like if you feel like your voice matters. Now, if I was wrongfully accused of something and they came to the house to arrest me, I wouldn't put up a fight. I would let them take me to jail. I would hire the best lawyer I could afford.
Right.
And I would fight it in the court system. But just knowing that I don't have to just take that lying down. No, I would never take up arms against the government unless it was like to the point where the government's taking arms up against us.
Right, and that's what it's there for.
But knowing that I can, it makes me feel like a real person and not just like, a kid in school or something.
Yeah, you're a citizen, not a subject. You're not there to have so they can wipe their feet on you.
Yeah.
And that's what it's really for. It's not designed for us to take up arms against, Joe Bob officer out here trying to do his job on a daily basis. It's for us to take up arms against tyranny, like when we've crossed a line that we've had enough. And I don't know when that's going to be, because I mean.
Oh, they went around trying to take up all the guns. That'd be
but you know what? That's a horrible thing to think about.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a terrifying thought, and it just struck me when you said it. I think, again, I love guns, but I wonder sometimes if they're a false safety blanket.
It's in a sense of like if we could actually do anything against the government.
I still got my guns. They might be listening to every phone call I make and taking 80% of my pay and. Making me do this and making me do that and telling me I can't do that and I can't, do this to my own stinking flesh, but still got my gun, so I'm still free.
Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes if, and again, as someone who loves firearms, but I still wonder sometimes if, as long as they don't take away the guns, will we let them do everything else they want to do?
Yeah, and I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, that's probably why one of the big reasons we've been able to keep them this long is because they know at the end of the day they can get us in a back doorway.
Yeah, I think oddly enough, letting us keep our gums keeps us peaceful.
Yeah, but that being said, like them listening, I don't like it if they're listening to my phone conversations or all these kinds of things. But as long as they're not physically trying to put me in a cage.
But I wonder how long. I'm wondering how long till that leads to them doing that. But that goes back.
Have a warning, I guess.
But that goes back to the problem I have with that sort of mentality is the whole. I think that can kind of lead to, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, why do you care if they're listening? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I care if they're listening because it's none of their damn business. That's it's like why the libertarian chicken crossed the road. None of your business. Am I being detained?
Yeah.
It's that they don't have any idea. They have no reason to listen to what I'm doing on any given day of the week, and no right to listen to what I'm doing any given day of the week. Because again, we're back to what I was talking about earlier. Yeah. If I tap into your phone, that's eavesdropping and wiretapping. But as long as somebody who won a popularity contest says it's okay, now they can do it.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have my consent. I'm the governed to know don't listen to my phone. It doesn't matter that they don't have the consent. They can do it whenever they want to. They can flip a switch right now and listen to everything that. No, they wouldn't have to even get on YouTube. They could just listen through my phone, and we know that. You know what I mean? It's just
and the problem is, as technology keeps getting better and better, and it's already there. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Is they don't have to. They can just do it anyways, whether we say they can or not.
Yeah.
Or whether the Constitution allows them to. Yeah. Just do it.
And then some guy that actually goes, "Hey guys, they're doing all this to you," is now in the Uruguayan. What embassy is he in now? Nicaraguan.
No, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. He's holed up in some embassy somewhere. You know what I mean? And it's just it's absolutely ridiculous. You got Assange, you got Snowden, both of which have done amazing things for this country, and both of which are fugitives because they're the ones that screamed that the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah, it's that's a tough one, man. The privacy thing and all that. I've had this idea. We may have even talked about this on the last podcast, and it's really just kind of like a one of those food for thought kind of ideas. It's not really something I would necessarily maybe think is a good idea. It's something I like to think about. This idea of a society where the government doesn't tell you what you can't do as far as you can own anything that you want. There's no possession crimes. You basically just can't hurt people. You can't steal things from people, and you can't hurt people. But the way that this is able to work is that there's more police, more oversight from the government, but you don't have anything to worry about because you can basically do anything as long as you're not hurting anybody.
No, I mean it's an interesting concept. It's over governed libertarianism, I think is what you're looking at there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you need more people to make sure people aren't doing stupid stuff, but then you get to have more stuff that you could do stupid stuff with.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't think I would mind living in that.
It's kind of you can have maybe example would be you can have a bunch of hand grenades in your house and it's totally legal. But when you go to set them off,
I can't have those now.
No.
I'll be right back.
We'll
Kidding.
Those aren't real. I don't know if they can see those or not. You can have hand grenades in your house, but when you go out into the woods to set them off, maybe there's a cop there and he sees you.
Yeah.
Maybe
or somebody hears the explosion.
Yeah.
It's not like they're real quiet. Throwing a few of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that could be abused, of course. But I don't know. I just try to think
you can abuse
of
anything. No. I mean, but at the end of the day, you can abuse anything. And I think one of the things that one of the problems we have right now in this country is they're trying to get enough laws passed that people can't abuse things, and that's never going to happen.
No, never.
But the answer is always to pass a new law, pass a different law, pass another law. Well, they're doing this. We'll make them stop. Well, the law's not going to make anybody stop anything.
I just hate feeling like I can't be trusted. Like I was talking to someone one time. It was actually after a comedy show, and this is kind of one of the things I like to pull out if I know I'm talking to someone that absolutely hates guns, and I'm just trying to connect with them on some basic level. Is I'll basically say I understand from your perspective how you don't like guns, you don't trust people with owning guns. I totally get that. Is what I'll say, and I'm not pulling their leg. I get how some people have a different life than me, so it makes sense that they see things differently. But I would say, from my perspective, I grew up with guns. They've been around my entire life. I've always been safe with them. Never known anyone to have any type of dangerous issues with a gun. Me and my friends, we've always been safe with them. I know that I can handle owning firearm. I can handle owning machine guns. Probably even grenades. Never had any, but I know at least I can have machine guns and be totally safe and never hurt anybody.
Right.
I know that for a fact. Like, I know that you don't know that because you're not inside my head, but I am inside my head, and I know my experience, and I know for a fact that I can do that without a shadow of a doubt. And that also makes me believe that there's probably other people,
the vast majority of people,
who can also do that.
Yeah.
So you've got to understand where I'm coming from, and that I think that people should be allowed, to have that right. And at the very least, I feel like you can sort of get to a position where they're kind of like, okay, I see how there are some people who can probably handle it. And I'm just like, just give me a way to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All I want is a way to have the things that are fun to me that I know I can handle. But, but it's kind of like, like we were talking about earlier. Well, I forgot what term you use for it, but it's basically like broad brush is what you're saying. They have some kind of broad brush, law because it's easier that way.
Well, it's not that it's easy. It's that everybody, again, we can go back to the everybody thinks their opinion should be law.
Yeah.
And so you got 100 senators and what is it, 238, 258.
38 maybe.
Yeah, 238. I'm starting.
Sounds more right. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a long week.
Josh,
over 200, over 200 representatives and 100 senators, and then some guy who won a popularity contest with his buddy. And every one of them thinks, oh, well, I won this popularity contest, so what I think is right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'll go find this study that backs up my opinion, and we'll make this a law. And nobody stops to think for just half a second whether this is is this really a good idea? Well, I think it's a good idea, so it's a good idea, and let's see how many people I can get to agree with me. And, oh, look, I got 51% of people to agree with me, and now I got a law that the other 49% have to live with, and we'll just, plaster it across the nation, and we're done. Because all my ideas are great and need to be turned into laws.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of intellectual and philosophical laziness that leads to tyranny, and that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's just easier.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
435 serve in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It has been a long week. Thank you.
I had no idea either.
Yeah.
Thanks, Google.
I was even more wrong because I was like, no, 238 sounds right.
Yeah, 238 sounds right. I was like 250. I am shamed by my lack of knowledge on that. I don't know where I got 238 from. Probably saw it as like a number of seats, on during election night.
Yeah,
I was like, 238. That's probably how many just the Republicans hold or something. And I was like, oh, that's a good number. I must see how many there are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh man.
I think it is 200. How many? Just out of curiosity, how many do the Republicans hold right now?
Let's find out.
Please do, because maybe if I can get somewhere around 230 or 250, I won't feel so bad about my stupidity this late in a week.
It could. Yeah, that definitely could be it. Huh.
You guys might want to talk through this. I'm a very slow talker.
Okay.
Okay, very well. I'm just like, I'm sitting here going, am I this dumb? Please tell me I'm not this dumb. I got that number from somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was the number under the red dots. Okay. Woo. All right.
Yeah.
I didn't just pull that number out of thin air and think that was a great idea. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, like Republican Democrat. So it's weird. Have you heard of this thing called the Mandela effect? I mean, it's like a silly little like internet conspiracy.
No, dude. I love Mandela effect stuff.
That?
It's like a big. Is that my ears, or did I do something to the mic?
I don't know.
It's my ears.
Okay.
I get random flares up of tinnitus.
Yeah, I get that too.
Yeah, and so I'm sitting here talking all of a sudden. I was like, is that feedback?
Yeah.
Can anybody else hear that ringing? No? Okay, cool.
Because the thing is, I want to feel like it's silly. It probably is, but I had an experience when I was a kid. It's not one that I've ever like read about, but I distinctly remember having this experience. One morning, I woke up. I was probably like maybe 11 or 12 or something like that. And I came downstairs, and it was like around election time, and they had the Republican and the Democrat thing was like on TV for some reason. And I always, let's see, which one is it? I had the colors for Republican and Democrat switched. Mm-hmm. It was like I always thought that Democrats were red and Republicans were blue. And it could be just some weird misconstrued thing or whatever, but it's a very strong memory. And I just woke up and I was just like, hey, why did they get that messed up on the TV? And then my parents were like, what are you talking about? I was like, the Republicans are supposed to be blue and they've got it red for some reason. Like I was just so sure that why did they mess that up?
No.
And my parents were like, what are you talking about?
It's always been this way.
Yeah.
No, that's classic
like
Mandela
really
effect. No, Mandela effect. I love that stuff, dude. I love Like a while ago, when I was like, the doorbell just rang, and then the doorbell rang, and I was like, hello, glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah.
So no, I love reading that stuff. I got hooked on that. We at my place we tend to at night for some reason we like to find creepy stuff to listen to.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got turned on to some of the glitch in the Matrix stuff, and then I started reading if I can say this, the subreddit on glitch in the Matrix. And
there's nothing else that's interesting.
But I mean, there's some really freaky stuff in there, like the guy whose friend lives 2 towns over, except when she lives 3 towns over. Sometimes there's like an extra town that they go through, and so it's interesting. I think it's very, and I guess to get back into the conspiracy theory and the Matrix stuff we were talking about earlier. But I think it's really interesting the things that did you drop in from another quantum universe where the only difference was that those colors were reversed?
Yeah.
Or were you so young that other things are different, but you don't notice it now? And if you go back into the concept that the universe splits every time there's a decision made, that kind of thing, then, the switching from quantum universe to quantum universe may not be that big a deal. Consciousness may flip through them as we go. So, I think the Mandela stuff is very, very cool. And then the glitch in the Matrix stuff is incredibly, incredibly creepy.
And, of course, it's called that because the big one is a lot of people believe that Nelson Mandela died in prison.
Yeah.
But
he when did he die? Is he still alive?
He died maybe 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Yeah, I was going to say it wasn't, but a lot of people think he died.
Yeah, and the Berenstain Bears.
Yeah, the weird thing was about 1995 or something. They didn't exist before 1995. What is that one?
But it's that it's actually pronounced Berenstain Bears. That's how it's spelled.
Oh, okay.
And people thought it was just Berenstain Bears, which that's how we always said it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Which probably we just said it wrong.
Yeah.
But
there was something else I was reading the other day about something to do with the Berenstain Bears and how they didn't exist before a certain time, but everybody remembers them going back forever.
Yeah.
Which was another sort of Mandela effect situation. Yeah. I love that stuff, dude. I think it's incredibly, incredibly cool. I mean,
by the way, 248 Republicans in there.
Yeah.
I said 238.
That's pretty close, though.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah. So I'm just going to, for my own ego, I'm going to go with that's where I got that number.
Yeah.
Sorry that took so long. I typed it in. Google Chrome froze.
Oh, of course.
Then had to restart everything and then dig for it.
Well, you know what? As long as it was, I said 238. It was 248. I'm good.
Yeah.
I can go to sleep tonight without killing myself.
Hey, Google Chrome used to be the good one. Now it's starting to not be, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. They're starting to do stuff to it. I mean, they'll play with it. Hopefully, it'll get back, where it was. I still would prefer Chrome over IE any day of the week.
I wonder what the next one is going to be.
Well, I mean, Chrome's kind of got it locked down right now, and Google's AI just learned to send its own encrypted. Did you see that? Where Google's AI has set up its own encryption, has learned to keep its own secrets.
Oh,
Let that sink in.
So, like, only the Google AI knows it's...
Yeah, and it can communicate with other portions of itself
encrypted
to the point that humans can't even read it.
My brain hurts.
Yeah. It's gonna hurt all the way up to the point that some robot blows it out of your skull, man. Yeah, no, there's some, I don't know. I'm again, being a big sci-fi fan. AI always fascinates me, but yeah, that's kind of a little scary.
Yeah.
It's that's scarier than the deep dream stuff that they did with it a while back.
But we were talking earlier because we got one of those robot vacuum cleaners recently.
Oh, the Roombas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were talking about robots taking over. What scares me more than robots taking over is that they need their rights.
Oh yeah, no, they'll definitely robot rights call. Well, I mean that's I don't know if you've weird enough talking about the Matrix. I don't know if you've ever went back and read the stuff. There were the Animatrix, not read but watched the Animatrix. It's the sort of a series of animated short films that led up to the Matrix.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things that they talk about in there is robot worker rights.
And
how the robots wanted rights, and it started a war, and then they left, and. So yeah, that's
what's so weird about it. You get into like are robots conscious or whatever, and the creepy thing is to me about that is they could behave so close to something that would be. I mean, if the AI is good enough, we wouldn't be able to tell whether it was conscious or not.
Well,
it could easily be just literally a machine that's dead, but we might start to think that it's not.
Well, but that goes back to some of the stuff we were talking about earlier, the Blade Runner kind of thing, Battlestar Galactica kind of thing, like so. If our brain is a highly advanced meat computer that somehow houses a higher consciousness.
So I just literally when you said that, I imagined like steaks stacked on top of each other.
Blinking off and on in binary. But no, I mean, if our brain is some sort of highly advanced meat computer, that somehow houses a consciousness. Why couldn't an electronic computer? Why couldn't a silicon computer?
Like Chappie, that movie.
Yeah, Chappie, the Cylons, the skin job Cylons in Battlestar Galactica, the replicants from Blade Runner. I mean, you look at obviously played by a human, but you look at Rutger Hauer's soliloquy from Blade Runner, and think about a machine saying that to you. Like, who are we to say that it's not? I mean, even the Dalai Lama has come out and said that a machine could embody consciousness. And how far are we from transcendence, where we can upload ourselves? And at that point, what is that? Our consciousness, or is it an electronic replication of our consciousness?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know that a machine could not be self-aware and conscious.
They could just like play video games for all of eternity.
Yeah, I mean, or go anywhere.
Maybe that's what we're doing now.
Exactly. We're actually uploaded already. We just don't know it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have heard a theory about that we are the robots that were left here long ago, and we've just kind of grown into that ourselves because, we have electricity that goes through us and all that stuff. And like you said, our brains are basically computers to a certain extent. So yeah, if you really want to dig into that Reddit stuff more, you might be able to find that too. Yeah,
I've got a friend of mine that thinks we're just all the idiots that didn't make it onto the spaceship the last time the smart ones left.
Oh yeah,
or we're the descendants of all the idiots that didn't make it on the spaceship the last time the smart ones left.
Yeah.
So
I will say, if we are in a video game right now that we created, it's a pretty slow one. Things move very slow.
They do very, very, very slow, and I don't have any superpowers. There's no way for me to grow super huge. I don't have any cybernetic implants, and I'm very upset about that. But,
yeah.
But no, I think it's just an interesting simulation. I think we're just here to experience. And at the end of the day, I think that's the whole point. If it is a game, if you want to say it's a game,
seems to reward that.
Yeah,
I think we're here just to experience exploration.
Yeah,
to an extent.
Yeah, whether it be internal, external, meeting new people, coming up with new ideas, creating new things. It's all. And one of the things that's interesting is that discovering a new idea triggers the same concept in us as creating a new thing.
Yeah.
And so I think it's all very, very similar to itself. We're here. I think we are here to create and explore and understand and experience. And I think at some point we'll take it all back to something bigger than us. But I think that's an interesting concept that life is nothing more than an exploration and survival game.
Yeah.
That some of us are winning and some of us aren't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think that would be an interesting way to think about it. And then there's the theory. It's much more esoteric, but the theory that kind of similar to what we were saying before, that this splitting ourselves into different shards so we could talk to ourselves and not go crazy. There's also the theory that every single human is just the same soul, moving back and forth through time, trying to experience everything it can.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's actually a theory in physics that every electron in the universe is the same electron moving back and forth through time.
It's just happening so fast.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you move your hand, it all looks like it's in the same spot.
Only on a trillion times faster.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's not that it's moving so fast. Multiple electrons would exist at the same point in time. We've seen that. But but because the electron can move forward and backwards in time, that it goes through time and then back again and then through time and then back again and crosses its own timeline over and over and over and over and over, because you cannot. And it comes from the fact that you cannot tell one electron from the other. And so they believe that all electrons are the same electrons.
Yeah, there's no serial numbers on them.
Exactly. But it's
that would be extra creepy though.
What does that say?
Oh my God, how creepy would that be if think about it, before they have microscopes, they didn't know what they were going to find. They first start looking down there,
all the protons have serial numbers, all the neutrons have serial numbers. Why are all these electrons blank?
It's like made in Xenu. What?
What the? Whoa! No, I'm done. I'm out. There we go.
Has General Electric stamped on everything. I knew
General Electron. No. But no, it is an interesting theory, because if every electron is the same electron, then why couldn't every soul be the same soul?
Yeah.
And then we're all just moving back and forth through time. So it'd be an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
But
it would. How are we doing on time over
there? We're at 1:53 right now.
That's all we got left?
Or, excuse me, 1:53. Sorry.
Whoa! Speaking of time dilation, holy mother!
Well, that camera only had 1:58 on it, so it's probably about to go. So,
okay.
We never even introduced you. We were just like,
let's start talking. Yeah. So, outro-duce me, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will, I guess.
Yeah. They saw you on the
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
if you want some backstory, check out Rock Wars and Star Wars. I think there's more about me on there. But no, former Marine, degree in physics. Spend way too much time contemplating my own navel and the nature of the universe when I'm not trying to write books or design games or supervise people at a local company.
And now they're like, okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, now I understand you're one of those folks. All right, cool. But no, it's just. I just wanted. I mean, if I didn't want to understand how everything works, I wouldn't have studied physics. You know,
totally makes sense.
Yeah, that was the outgrowth of that. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I want to have you on again, man. Like I know, like some podcasts, they're all, driven by like what interesting guests we get or whatever. I like to have some of the same people on. I don't know.
I loved being here last year. You know, I loved being here. You know, I loved being here this time. I said I was going to give you a hard time, so I am. I'd like to be here before the next Star Wars movie comes out.
Definitely, yeah.
So, I mean, I like the correlation between the two, but I would love to do this.
And last time I wanted to have you on more too, but it's just like that was around the time where I started kind of dying down.
Yeah, no, dude, it's totally cool. No, but if you get back up to where you're doing on a regular basis, I'd love to be in here on a regular basis.
That's awesome. Get Derek on again.
Oh man, yeah, dude. No, that guy's awesome.
Yeah,
Derek. Yeah,
he's something else.
Yeah, he really is. I feel like there was a good chemistry there. Like the whole thing with the three of us was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
It was. Yeah, I'm excited to do that again.
Yeah, definitely.
Make it like a 6-hour podcast.
Oh my god, break it up. Yeah, get 3 weeks worth of stuff out of one Saturday afternoon. Why not, man? Tune in next week for the adventures of.
Yeah. And then Josh, you got to do your stuff again.
Oh yeah, Josh Lewis here. Hey everybody.
Hey Josh.
You can follow me at the Josh from TN on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff, and check out my podcast with me and my friend Rob Haynes, Letters from Camp Blood. If you're into the Friday the 13th film series and generally old scary movies, you should dig it. And if not, you can just go ahead and like it on iTunes. Just help me out.
Nice. You know what I just realized is actually this episode is going to go up before the one we did earlier with Derek. So it wasn't again. It was like, so Josh, for the first time, introduced
for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And well, no, you know what? Just it's that linear time thing again, dude. You got to free your mind. You got to free your mind. Yeah. Time's not linear. You know. This could be the first time. We don't know. It could be doing it again.
This is a heck of a just a time travel episode.
And yeah,
it really is. Well, it's been fun, man.
Oh yeah, no, dude, I've loved it. Can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Cool.
All right. See you, everybody.
Have a good one, guys.